Hello, I'm Mike McHenry. I'm VP of Product Development for LightEdge Solutions. LightEdge Solutions is a Tier 2 focused data center services provider. We focus primarily in the Tier 2 markets in providing co-location services, managed IT services, and hybrid cloud enablement for our customer base. Our customers tend to be compliant. They're regulated customers that require compliancy controls and certifications around the solutions that we provide for them. LightEdge has been a partner of VMware for over 15 years now, and one of the things that excites us about VMware is just the strength and the breadth of solutions that they provide. We found that VMware has a very rich ecosystem for providing IT services for our customers. It's an enterprise-focused solution set that's very important to our customer base. Our customers are not looking to save money by doing it themselves. They're not looking for white box solutions. They're looking for long-term partners that they can grow with. They're looking for visionaries. They're looking for solutions that are future-proof, that can kind of grow and evolve with them as they need to. What do we look for at LightEdge in our partners like VMware? One of the most important things is strength and stability in our partnerships. We're not looking for partners that are here today, gone tomorrow. We're looking for partners that can grow with us, that can evolve with us. Our customers are looking for solutions that are enterprise grade. They're not interested in saving a few dollars by building it themselves. They're looking for enterprise grade solutions and partners that have a vision that can grow and evolve with their needs. One of the trends that we're seeing with our customers right now is a desire to modernize their infrastructure. A lot of the customers in our Tier 2 markets have gone through initial phases of virtualization. Some of them have not, most of them have, but they're now in a Generation 2 or Generation 3 of that initial investment. They're looking to modernize that. And what that typically means to these customers is a sizable investment. They're looking to find a partner and a solution that can grow with them for the next 3 to 5 years. They understand that things are changing. Application modernization and transformation type initiatives are really advancing at an incredible pace. So any solution they pick, they have to live with that solution for the next 3 to 5 years. So that solution has to scale with them. One of the benefits of the VMware approach is that there's a lot of familiarity with VMware-based solutions in the marketplace. Most of these small to medium-sized enterprise customers have VMware administration capabilities in-house. They have tools and process integrated already with those VMware-based solutions. So it's a very easy path for them to continue with VMware and kind of take and leverage those existing skill sets and those existing tools and processes that they've built. Also, we find that Tier 2 market customers tend to find public cloud being difficult and more costly to navigate. While on a particular product analysis you can find cost savings, public cloud service catalogs are very extensive, and it's difficult for smaller organizations to navigate that. So we find many of our customers are using public cloud, but they're looking for a partner that can help them navigate through that and kind of scale their business. Another trend that we're seeing with our customers in the market today is a desire to optimize resource allocation. There's a desire to do more with less. A lot of the IT budgets in these Tier 2 markets are tied up in upkeep of existing infrastructure. Customers want to move away from that. They want to spend more time taking on transformational type initiatives. They're unable to do that because of the upkeep. And VMware really shines with its solution set, in particular some of the things that they're doing with their Tanzu solution set and being able to offload some of that upkeep onto the service provider to kind of free up customers to tackle more strategic initiatives. Hybrid cloud, again, it can be costly to realize for these small enterprise customers. They know that they need hybrid cloud. They have workload that's better suited for public cloud versus local cloud providers such as ourselves. They need help with that, and to do that, they need to do more with less. They have to optimize the resources that they have and free them up to tackle some of the more strategic initiatives. So what excites us at LightEdge about Tanzu and what VMware is doing with that technology? We've been tracking Tanzu for several years now, and I think the thing that excites us the most about VMware's direction is it provides us with a platform. It's a platform that's well understood and frankly in use by many of our customers, but it provides that platform with room to grow. It gives the customers a future trajectory based on VMware technology that allows them to take on application modernization. It lowers the barrier for containerization. Tanzu solutions are built alongside of many of the other services that VMware provides, services such as NSX that help accelerate network virtualization type initiatives. But taken in combination, these solutions provide a lower barrier for our customers to take on some of these more strategic initiatives. VMware is doing the heavy lifting of deploying these next generation technologies. You don't need a container expert on staff to build a complex solution set. We have customers today that have deployed Red Hat based solutions, complex, a lot of upkeep in those types of solutions. VMware allows them to get to a similar use case without needing that staff and that subject matter expertise in Linux and in Kubernetes upkeep. It's also compatible with multi-cloud hybrid strategies. Very important to these customers that want to know that they're investing in something that has a future trajectory. Customers don't know if they're going to be leveraging public cloud or private cloud in the future. They need flexibility to move with that, and the Tanzu VMware catalog gives them that flexibility. And then finally, a rich ecosystem of surrounding applications and solutions. Again, a lot of these same tools and interfaces that customers are used to managing, they can continue managing those same interfaces and tools. Backup, disaster recovery, those same frameworks are much more applicable with a Tanzu-based solution than they are if a customer were to go out and kind of start this from the ground up with an open stack or an open shift type solution. One of our subject matter experts, Duncan Wanamaker, is going to give you a demonstration now of Tanzu functionality in our labs.
Hey, this is just a quick functional demo of what the DPC with Tanzu product usage will look like, as well as a sort of a tech demo of the application launchpad, which is the Bitnami integration. So first, let me just show, this is the provider view where we've defined the customer's tenant as LightEdge test. You'll notice there's an app launchpad tenant as well that gets created. We'll cover that in a minute. But this cluster is tied specifically to our ALN engineering lab. You'll notice there's a little ship wheel here that is showing that this cluster is enabled for Kubernetes. That means as providers, once we've set up a cluster resource pool, we're able to go into that resource pool and create Kubernetes policies, right? I've got an example here of like a gold, silver, and bronze policy. There's also one just called ALN Lab policy, which is the default. But these allow us to provision and say what type of instances customers can create for their Kubernetes clusters. Like how big of the nodes can they create? How much storage can they use? Do we limit them to specific amounts of CPU or storage? So that's how they're intended to be created, but then we can publish them to organizations. So we've done that actually. We've published one of these Kubernetes policies to the customer organization for LightEdge Lab. So within that, you can see we've created an NS-01, so namespace, lab namespace for it. They're able to create these types of machine classes within that, and it's got a 30 gigahertz and 100 or 10 terabytes of space reserved for it. All right, so from within the customer view, here's the integration options that gives them. All right, so there's a Kubernetes container clusters section, which they're able to go in now since they've been allocated a namespace. They can create guest clusters within that. So they go to create new. We can call this test customer. We can say which organization to place it. We can choose the namespace. There could be more than one, like a gold or a silver. It could be development or production. And choose the version of Kubernetes that we want to run on there. Then they'll choose how big they want it to be. If they want a highly available control plane, you would do 3 control plane nodes and then the number of worker nodes that you need to add. So you could start with as few as 1 of each and then scale them up afterwards pretty easily. And then you can choose from the set of VM sizes that we picked for them and as part of those policies that they can use for both the control plane VMs and the worker VMs where the containers run. And what type of storage they're going to use. So it could use SolidFire, it could use vSAN like they are in this case. You could use pure storage. We can assign multiple types of storage types for Kubernetes to consume. There's an option for some internal networking. We're just going to use the defaults and click Finish. And that's it. That's all that's necessary to create a Kubernetes cluster. It will start spinning up. And if we had vCenter pulled up here, you'd see it start to create the virtual machines for that namespace. So since that takes up to 5 minutes, we're not going to wait. I've actually already created a Kubernetes cluster that I've attached to a developer workstation, and that would be this TKG customer namespace. Once it's deployed, they do have the option to resize the number of workers. They can spin that up to 5 or 6 or however many they need, or spin it back down based on the demand for the application running in that cluster. From the developer's view, this is a CentOS machine. We've downloaded that Kubernetes command line or config, which allows us to manage that cluster. So we can do things like kubectl get nodes to see what nodes are available. We've got 1 master node and 3 worker nodes. We could do kubectl get pods to see what pods have been deployed. Currently there's nothing running in this namespace. And then you could use Kubernetes APIs and config files to deploy an application. This is probably what most developers that are familiar with Kubernetes are going to do. Another option that VMware allows is the App Launchpad. It's an integration that allows the deployment of applications on these Kubernetes clusters using what are called Helm charts. They're application blueprints, and they can be applied to Kubernetes clusters, right? So this user interface, this is the customer view you're seeing. You can mark featured applications. These can be applications that are created by LightEdge, but in general, most of them are coming from the Bitnami catalog. So Bitnami puts out and maintains the versions of these, so we can have them synced, and I'll show you how that's done. But just while we wait here, I'm going to go ahead and launch one of these applications to show you what that looks like. I still haven't named this cluster, so it shows up as site unnamed. Let's make a Jenkins application. If you look at the advanced settings, what this application deployer does is simplify some of that configuration. We can specify a password to use for that user as the default, as part of the deployment. We can say, we want this Jenkins applications to have persistence and how big the volume is going to be that we create. We can say that's going to be 10 gigabytes. How much memory and CPU to assign to it. And other few options as well as like the service type. So this is how it's going to be exposed. The defaults here are pretty much fine. You don't have to set any. I'm going to go ahead and set the password. The only setting that we do need to set, because there's not a default set, is what storage it's going to land on. And Kubernetes calls those storage classes. So a storage class, you can fetch the storage classes that are available using get storage classes. So we've only given one type of storage to this Kubernetes cluster, and it's a RAID 5 based off of the vSAN hard drives that are on the servers. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. That's really the only option we need to change, but folks can go in and change any of those default settings. You can see that password that I changed on the previous form screen has been input here. But they can. There are a number of options that they can modify for their Jenkins deployment here. I'm going to keep the rest default and push launch. So what's going to happen is the application launchpad system on the back end is going to reach out to the cluster that I defined and deploy this application. If we switch back over to the cluster and do kubectl get all, specifying that namespace, right? So let's that namespace is like a bunch of characters that I left out of, well, kubectl get ns. Here it is. It's this namespace with the two A's on the end. So the app launchpad creates a namespace for applications it deploys. So kubectl get pods for that namespace. And we can see a Jenkins pod is running, but it's not quite ready yet. We can actually look at all the devices in that namespace by doing get all. And you can see that pod, which is still spinning up. You can see a service has been defined, and an external IP has already been claimed for that service. It's going to be exposing ports 80 for HTTP and 443 for HTTPS. It's actually using these high ports on the back end on the actual pod, but it's going to map them for us to common ports. And then there's the deployment, which manages the scale of that application. Let's just run a get all again and see if it's finished. Yep, we have one pod running for Jenkins. It's got a load balancer IP of 10.20.08. Let's see if we can reach it. If we do a curl to HTTP 10.20.0.8, yes, I got an HTTP response. Now it's trying to redirect us to a login form. If I try to browse to that application from in my VM 10.20.0.8, you'll notice nothing comes up. Well, that's because vCloud Director automatically makes these Kubernetes applications only accessible to the VMs within that tenant unless they do something to make it accessible publicly. Well, here's what needs to be done to do that, right? So you would go to the customer can do this. This is as the customer. They can go to their Edge firewall and create a NAT rule, and this is how you expose those apps. So here's an example of one here using this externally reachable IP. It could be a public IP, but probably it'll be an IP behind our firewall. And then here's that internal IP. So let's just create a new one. We're going to call it Jenkins. We're going to say our external IP is 10.20.3.8, and our internal IP 10.20.0.8 is there. You can specify which ports to map, but I'm just going to map them all. And we'll give that a second. And what this is doing is creating a NAT rule on NSX. They don't have to leave to go to a different interface. They can do it from here. They can also specify their firewall rules for incoming and outgoing traffic directly from vCloud Director. There's even load balancer integration for the Avi load balancer and other tools that we want to integrate later. But let's jump back over, to the app launchpad. Let's check out that application. It is supposed to show the public IP that was assigned here, but that's it's not working for me for some reason. But anyways, let's try and browse to that public IP that I forwarded with the NAT record. So it was 10.20.3.8, wasn't it? Oh, there we go. There's our Jenkins deployment. It's up now. We can log in with the user and the password that we've defined. And there we go. We're in Jenkins. That application is running with a persistent volume and a load balanced endpoint. So all we had to do, because of that Bitnami application catalog, is click the application from the marketplace, tell it what storage to use, and push go. We gave it a password too, but this just shows some of the benefit and the ease of use that that app launchpad brings to managing applications. If you look at the provider side of that app launchpad, you have the ability to pull in specific applications from VMware that will automatically stay in sync. So not only do they have container images, these Helm charts, by the way, but they also have VM images, which are turned into VMs when you deploy them. So you can get different versions of all these Bitnami services that are available through this launcher. And once you add them, let's say if we're adding another container image, you can choose. So our Apache Helm chart, if we wanted to make it always stay in sync, it would pull that latest version down as they're released. And then you can choose what catalog to add them to. So this is pretty neat. You can have one catalog that's designed specifically for a customer. Like this one is just called containers, and we could share that to all customers within that environment. This is a dedicated environment, but assume this is VPC and we wanted to provision a catalog that only provided a single application with a single version. We could add a catalog for a customer, and then add that application to this catalog, and then from the Publish tab we can have the ability to publish just that catalog to just that customer's interface, right? So it does give us some granularity of not only what applications we want to provide within the catalog, what versions of those applications, but also which customer has visibility to those. What we didn't really go through also is you can add your own Helm repositories if you had your own local container images you wanted to provision, or if there's a manufacturer or company that has their own, you could point to that third party, or you could bring in your own, create your own custom applications by uploading images that would be available in that library. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what App Launchpad looks like. That's what Kubernetes integration looks like, and NSX integration with the DPC Advanced based on Cloud Director. Thanks for watching.
I think as we talk to our customers, we find that customers are on one side or the other of the containerization effort. Either they have already containerized a significant amount of their application. Those customers tend to be software development shops. They're very familiar with containerization. They struggle with the upkeep of that. There's a lot of overhead in deploying and maintaining the containerization layer. And for those customers, Tanzu is a very logical, easy to understand value prop. The other class of customer has not yet embraced containerization. We find a lot of our customers are worried about the future trajectory of their services. They prefer private cloud solutions, but they need to understand that the private cloud solutions they invest in today have a roadmap and a capability to host the workloads of tomorrow. So they're aware of containerization, but they're not yet leveraging it in any appreciable manner. They don't typically know how to containerize their applications. They're looking for a platform that can grow with them and a partner that can help them in those efforts. Those two customers, Tanzu allows us to address both of those customers very effectively with the value prop that VMware has brought to the table with Tanzu. It's a great solution for customers that already are familiar with containerization or for customers that are just beginning to make that journey.